Now I'm going to start our next session, which of course is the plenary session, which will be chaired by Professor S. Jayakumar. And I'd like to invite him, as well as the Chief Minister, Tarun Gogoi, Professor Gawar Rizvi, and Dr. A. Didar Singh onto the stage, please, gentlemen. I hope you've been mic'd up. And as they come, of course, I'll tell you a little bit about our very distinguished chair of the session. Professor S. Jayakumar is, of course, a distinguished statesman, an academic and a lawyer. He joined Drew & Napier as a consultant in 2013 to spearhead the firm's practices in international law, trade and constitutional law. He served as Singapore's senior minister from 2009 to 2011. He was the deputy prime minister of Singapore and was at various times the minister of foreign affairs, home affairs, law and labour, and one of Asia's longest serving law ministers from 1988 to 2008. Now, Professor Jayakumar, I'd like you to take over the proceedings of this plenary.
Ladies and gentlemen, Excellency, the Chief Minister of Assam, I am very pleased to chair this session, and I have a personal interest in the proceedings because way back in 1995 at the ASEAN Summit, as Foreign Minister, I worked very closely with Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong to bring about a decision of the ASEAN leaders to admit India as a full dialogue partner of ASEAN. And we did take that move because in Singapore we felt that there were sound strategic and economic arguments for justifying deeper engagement between India and ASEAN. So I have a deep personal abiding interest to see how, since that date 18 years ago and now, this vision has developed and been operationalized. Ladies and gentlemen, greater physical connectivity between South Asia and ASEAN is a vital part of such broader regional integration. Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia, we all know, share continuous geography with historical and cultural linkages. These can be leveraged to bring about greater economic development to Northeast Asia, Northeast India, as well as to the less developed countries of Southeast Asia. The northeastern region of India, comprising the states of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, Tripura, and Sikkim, has a common land boundary with Myanmar. Developing land connectivity and infrastructure is a key imperative in this regard. There are some existing areas of cooperation between Northeast India and Southeast Asia, particularly Myanmar, where a concerted effort can reap considerable benefits for the peoples on both sides. These include the building of land, air, and multimodal connectivity, infrastructure development, trade networks, and in the creation of an integrated tourist circuit. What can begin as the establishment of formal linkages between Northeast India and Southeast Asia can lead to deeper linkages between the whole of South Asia and Southeast Asia. Enhancing such physical links is essential to broaden and strengthen the ties that already exist. Economically, both ASEAN and South Asian regions are large emerging markets with strong long-term growth prospects. Connecting both regions means closely through air, sea, and land links will renew historic links and create more economic opportunities for both. Take trade and investment, for instance. Based on existing figures, ASEAN-India trade has been steadily on the rise from United States $2.5 billion in 1992 to $75 billion in 2012. ASEAN and India are aiming by 2015 to hit new trade targets of $100 billion, even without a change in current levels of connectivity. The recent conclusion of the ASEAN-India FTA is another boost. Greater connectivity will enhance the gains from the FTA by easing the movement of goods, services, and people through the reduction of physical barriers, transaction costs, and time. Another area is tourism, which will benefit from greater connectivity. The lands, the areas, and the cultural and biodiversity on which many parts of Northeast India and Southeast Asia is relatively untouched. Developing a continuous tourist circuit stretching from the uplands of Vietnam through to Myanmar, Northeast India, Bangladesh, and Eastern India can create both employment and revenue. The governments of India and ASEAN member countries have made a commitment to the development of such a circuit, and this offers another area with ample opportunities for private sectors to invest. Going forward, the ASEAN-India partnership provides one example of how to increase connectivity between our two regions. Both sides are working together to implement the master plan on ASEAN connectivity as a start. Key projects include the development of a trilateral India-Myanmar-Thailand highway with an extension to Laos and Cambodia. It is good that India has also set up a connectivity task force which held its inaugural meeting with the ASEAN Connectivity Coordinating Committee in June this year. Serious thinking is also underway on how to unlock funding for projects. Mechanisms like the China proposed ASEAN Infrastructure Investment Bank is one possibility. It is desirable for such mechanisms to operate in an inclusive fashion in tandem with the initiatives of existing organizations like the World Bank and Asian Development Bank. There's clearly potential for a rich partnership for both regions. To realize this potential, it seems to me that several things are essential. First, there must be political commitment and resolve on the part of government and decision makers on both sides. Secondly, there must be enough investments and effort to invest in infrastructure and infrastructure improvement. I don't mean only physical infrastructure like roads, bridges, and so on, but also to address issues of stability and safety concerns. Thirdly, investment and participation of the private sector and multilateral organizations would be critical. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure our distinguished keynote speaker, His Excellency Tarun Gogoi, Chief Minister of Assam, and our distinguished panelists, Professor Gauher Rizvi, Advisor to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, and Dr. Dida Singh, General Secretary of FICCI, will give their own useful perspectives on how to realize such cooperation and potential. I look forward to an interesting discussion. Thank you. Thank you. Can I now invite His Excellency, Chief Minister, to make a presentation?
Former Deputy Prime Minister, Professor Joy Kumar, Ambassador Gopinath Pillai, Her Excellency Indian High Commissioner, Srimati Vijay Thakur Singh, Dr. A.D. Didar Singh, Professor Govar Rizvi, distinguished delegates. I am really very happy to be here, and particularly to see the response is really, really very encouraging. And today there is much more need so that you can have a more interaction, more connectivities, man-to-man connectivities. Man-to-man connectivity is much more important than the physical connectivity also. So such conference is definitely given us opportunity to come across every section of the people. And I am very happy that at this time they are inviting even politicians also. I am told the last time politicians were untouchable, and today at least they feel that politicians should also be invited, and otherwise I not have got a chance to meet all of you. So anyhow, definitely it is this diaspora is a politicians, administrator, cultural, trade, commerce, business. It's a good thing. And we have to develop, whether it's a culturally, trade, commerce. Our job is not only for trade and commerce. Culture is also very, very important according to me. And there's a lot of affinity between the Southeast Asian country, Northeast, from where I do come also. Frankly speaking, my forefather also, they went to Assam from the Union province also. So we went there, 13th century, ruled there for 600 years. And of course, just like a diaspora contributed to the mother country and to the country they adopted, here also I have seen there has been migration also all along, and everybody is contributing. The mother country is also benefited, and the country they have adopted, country where they get a chance, that also has been benefited. And today it is a global scenario. Migration will definitely is bound to grow. People will move faster as things are moving faster because of the communication has many other facilities. And today everybody is moving very fast. And I have seen even from place like Assam, there's a good number of people they are working here also. Now wherever I go, I find boys from the Northeast, not only in India, in everywhere. So the migration movement of people must be much. Wherever there is a facilities, they will move. Nobody can. Either for job, or other research, or education, or the health, the tourism. And today I have seen also the way the people are moving, and definitely there is a lot of scope, as Professor Jai Kumar rightly, culturally, then tourism. These are northeast area, which is full of natural resources, human resources, even the mineral resources. But we have not been able to exploit fully to our resources. And that way I must appreciate Singapore. They know how to exploit the whatever limited resources they have got. This is very, very important also. Mere having resources is not enough unless you have to intelligently, you have to exploit it to the advantage of the. And today there has been more and more realization. India look its policy, then the Northeast, where geographically, the culturally, there is so much of affinity, no doubt. And the biodiversity, and we can exchange, whether culturally, whether in the field of education, whether the field of healthcare, tourists, and everywhere we can exchange. And everybody is going to be benefited also. Definitely everybody is concerned about economic development. I am also concerned about economic development. And India, of course, though we are emerging as an economic power, still we have got a problem. In my state also, Northeast, we are also having a problem because of the landlocked state after creation of partition. It has become a landlocked. Our road connectivities, river connectivities, rail connectivity has been disrupted. And today we want to open up it. And we have to open it. And today Government of India is also taking, and whether it's Bangladesh or Bhutan or even the Myanmar, so these are where Government of India is opening up also. And physical infrastructure is definitely important with the road connectivities, rail connectivities, and even the river connectivities. From the Myanmar, the Kaladan River to Situe Port, then the road connectivities, railway connectivities. Myanmar is the next door. There are a lot of resources are also there. So in my northeast state, particularly I come from a state, of course, which is very rich in natural, mineral, and human resources. And even the second oldest refinery was in Assam. Second oldest refinery after America, it was in Assam. Even today, we are very rich in the oil and the mineral resources, and particularly the tea industry. Everybody knows why British went to Assam. They went because of the trade, commerce, and business. It is they who just introduced the tea industries, your coal industry, or oil industry. And today, there's a lot of scope, as is rightly with tourism, even handicraft. Of course, Singapore, you see, they don't, because of the limited availability of the land, they are not giving focus on agriculture. Because since yesterday I went to university anyways, see, they don't have an agriculture department. I say, why you don't have an agriculture department? They say, we have got a very limited land availability. But on the other hand, I am more concerned about the agriculture. Agriculture is the best. More than 60% people that depend on agriculture. And there is a lot of scope also. With a medicinal plant, few hundreds of varieties are there, few hundred varieties are orchids are there. Even the bamboo is the largest. We can have with the bamboos, with the rubber industries, with the medicinal, so the food processing industries. So these are area, a lot of area where there's a lot of scope, no doubt about. Then another area, of course, where we have got a plenty of water resource, which you have a problem. But the way you have been utilize your limited water resources, it must be appreciated. And Brahmaputra, everyone knows, there's a river, one of the mightiest river in the world, coming from Tibet, then the Arunachal Pradesh, then Assam, then goes up to Bangladesh. And every year there is a flood and erosion. Then today we have been facing the climate change also. Today the whole world is concerned about. We are also equally concerned. Whether myself, whether Bangladesh, whether everybody is concerned about. And how to join hands together for our sustainable economic development. These are the areas where there is a lot of scope also. Then even healthcare also. Health and education, they are the most priority that we have been given also. Without health, without education, no nation, no society can progress. So these are the areas where there is a lot of scope, no doubt. And of course, your National University is one of the best. Out of 100, is, I think 24th number is your university. Doing a lot of research work, and the way they have been doing a lot of research and creating entrepreneurship, which is much more important. And definitely, the North is, of course, the Government of India has given a lot of incentive. They have given a lot of incentive, even for tax exemption, for excise duty exemptions, a lot of subsidies are given. A lot of industries they have set up, and the market is not in Northeast. Whether it's a Hindustan Lever, many other industries, they set up there. And the market is outside. I'm inviting everybody, whether within India, from Singapore or any other, for infrastructure development also. Infrastructure definitely. We have to go in a very big way. Yesterday, Sridhambaram has rightly mentioned. In the field of infrastructure, we have to weather ports, whether railway, whether air connectivities. Definitely, there's a lot of scope also, because India is more than 1 billion people. So, we need much more education facilities, we need more medical facilities, we need much more roads, more ports. And one advantage, India is in young people. So where other countries, developed countries are aging also, where we can provide employment opportunities, skill development. In fact, we had the discussion here also to how to improve the skill of our young people so that they can be employed also. Singapore government and the Delhi government, they have joined together also. I am also interested. My whole first priority is to join hands with all of you. Yes, from anywhere, from anybody who can come to Assam, set up whether it's a health sector, whether it's education sector, whether it's the tourism, the way tourism you are developing here, I have seen also. Tourism, lot of scope. We have got 2 World Heritage Site, wildlife, Kaziranga, everybody knows, Manas. So one-horned rhino, even the largest number, most densely populated tigers are there. There are a lot of tigers with the deers, elephant. It's full of adventurous tourism also is there. So in this scope, there's a lot of scope to join hand with each other. I don't like to take much, even mineral resources also. Adventurous touring, the rural tourism, tea tourism, and other field also. Even the problem that we've been facing, even in Assam, for example, we've got plenty of water during summer, and then in winter there is a shortage. Same with Meghalaya also. Everybody knows the highest rainfall in Meghalaya, but in Meghalaya city there is a dearth of water during winter. How to preserve it? So these are areas where there is a lot of scope also. And I'm very happy, even the government to government level, all the prime ministers, they're meeting each other, Southeast Asian countries. Recently also there was a meeting in Brunei also. So every prime ministers or the other ministers, everybody, another organization like here also, Institute of South Asian Studies also, Dr. Pillai is also taking a lot of interest. And we're very happy, and we want to join with all of you. And definitely, I see our future is better. More we join hand, definitely there will be a better future for everybody's. And this is a time we must join together so that this area is emerging as a future of the whole world, future of the next generation that belongs to Southeast Asian country. Definitely such meeting. And I'm very happy everybody is taking so much of interest. Response has been so encouraging, and everybody is taking so much of interest. This is a good sign. And I hope this such meeting will definitely go a long way in promoting friendships and promoting peace and progress among our South Asian diaspora. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know what.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, Chief Minister. You have made a very persuasive pitch as to why we should take an interest in Northeast Indian, and particularly, I guess, in Assam. You've highlighted the wealth of resources and the potential for tourism and other opportunities. I guess the critical question is, how can Southeast Asia tap these resources, and how access can be facilitated by greater connectivity, which is the theme of our session today.
Yeah.
And I hope our two panelists will touch on this. And I have great pleasure now in calling on Dr. Gauhar Rizvi. It's entirely up to you. You can speak. As I mentioned earlier, Dr. Rizvi is International Affairs Advisor to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, and is a renowned scholar, historian, and academic, and has written extensively in this area. Dr. Rizvi.
Thank you so much, Professor Kumar, Your Excellency, Dr. Vidarsi, friends. Actually, my task
Is your microphone?
in that case, I'll go there.
I think it's you have to switch it on.
I started by saying that my task has been made immensely easy by the most eloquent presentation of the Chief Minister, who has laid out a very, very strong argument as to why all of you should be coming not only to Assam and Northeast India. Only to remind you that the road to the Northeast and Assam is through Bangladesh. and therefore, my task, my pitching will be extremely, extremely easy. I've been hearing to some outstanding presentations in the last 2 days, each of which has broken new grounds, new frontiers. One has learned enormously. But I was struck constantly we were swinging between extreme optimism and occasional pessimism as to whether or not South Asia will ever change. I will in a moment argue that we are at a place where transformative changes are taking place. Many of our perceptions about South Asia are perhaps dated, need to be revised, and I hope in the next few minutes I will say a few things about that. What has changed, and this is undeniable, a number of things have changed, which is making the progress towards connectivity, towards development, irreversible, and I can quickly name them. First and the most important thing is India is now emerged as a major global player. And that has made India more confident, more generous, more sensitive to its neighbors, and has created an environment in which many of the older difficulties, suspicions have been removed or are in the process of being removed. So to think of South Asia as a conflict-ridden region where neighbors are fighting with each other is something of the past we need to rethink. Secondly, the smaller, only comparatively smaller, neighbors are also changing. The smaller states are much more confident of their sovereignty, of their independence, of their nationhood. So the early anxieties that they were threatened from outside, threatened by their neighbors, is now a thing of the past. And therefore, they are also able to rebuild the connections. And yesterday, my good friend Raja Mohan, who's sitting there, reminded us, if we are not looking to connect, rather reconnect, because the connectivity was always there. It's only during the last 50, 60 years that much of these were allowed to decay, were deliberately cut off. And as I said earlier, we are truly witnessing in South Asia a transformative moment in history. If you look at, I say that, but I'm also very, very much aware of the fact that South Asia is a vast, complicated region. So not everything I say applies to every part of South Asia. Different parts of South Asia are moving at different speed. And therefore, there are still areas where issues are left unresolved. But by and large, what I'm going to say, I hope will hold true. Also, there has been a dramatic change in our own perception of our neighbors. The security discourse in the past was all based on threats, perceptions of external threats, and a belief that through conflict, through wars, these threats can be fended off. Today, we know our whole notion of security of the region has changed. We are much more focused on our vulnerabilities, our internal difficulties, which is making us weak rather than threats posed from outside. So combination of this has meant that the era of confrontation and conflict, most of us now realize, will not resolve the problems that are ahead of us. What is required? These are transnational problems. None of these problems, whether it is environmental degradation, climate change, terrorism, you name it, poverty, will not be addressed nationally, will need to be addressed transnationally, and therefore the need of the time is to cooperate rather than enter into confrontation. And it was with this belief that Bangladesh and India, and I'm with some pride I can say, we can claim to have created a model for what good neighborly relations should be and can be. In the last 4.5 years, all the outstanding issues that deviled the relationship between the two countries, who have every reason to have good relationship, we have set them aside, we have resolved them, and I can happily say, I was going to say we have resolved, Honorable Chief Minister, all these problems, but then I'm reminded that you are here, and I will gently remind you there is one small business on your table to vote for the ratification of the Indo-Bangladesh land agreement. Once that is done, we shall be through with our agenda. So I hope when it comes to Parliament, you will not let us down. So all our issues really have been resolved. Today, we no longer, our visa regimes have been liberalized. Bangladesh has full duty-free access to the Indian market. As I've already said, our border agreements, disputes have been resolved and signed, awaiting ratification. Movement of people, movement of trade, all of this is gathering momentum. And most important of all, this treacherous debate whether or not Bangladesh will allow transit facilities to its neighbors happily has been now settled. It is no longer a question whether Bangladesh will allow, in fact, we have already started Nepal and Bhutan. They are now transiting through overland to Bangladesh and using Bangladesh's ports and rails. And again, Chief Minister, I will say you are no longer landlocked. Our roads, our railways, our rivers, our seaports are all at your disposal. So there is absolutely no question of Northeast any longer being. So having got that far, we are now really about to make some big breakthroughs, because the past has been resolved, past has been settled. And during the last visit of the Prime Minister of India, in which His Excellency the Chief Minister was there, we arrived at three momentous conclusions. First was that not only Bangladesh, Nepal and India have access to each other through overland route. which means our ports are open to them and we have access to their land through overland route. That was one thing that was agreed. The other major agreement was arrived at was in the northeast, Assam and all the way to Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh. It is boundless energy potential, renewable hydroelectric energy potentials. These have not been able to be developed for the last 60 years because where the demand lies in West Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, and so forth. And there, the problem of evacuating the electricity from northeast. Now, we are agreed this can be evacuated through Bangladesh, and in return, we are going to be joint venture partners in all the hydroelectric projects that will be developed, which will not only solve our power deficit, will add enormously to the wealth of Northeast and provide power where it is short. Likewise, we agreed that we will now move away from river by river agreement to a complete agreement on basin-wide management of river waters. That again has opened up enormous possibilities which did not exist. And finally, we have now two trilaterals, Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Bhutan, where we will jointly develop the enormous hydroelectricity potentials in Bhutan and Nepal and link them to South Asian grid. And you will remember, some of you will remember, about less than a month ago, our first electricity grid with India has been connected. We are now receiving 500 megawatts from India through the grid, and this will eventually link us to the entire Indian electricity grid and market, and with the hope that we will be able to export beyond that. So what I am really saying is essentially adding to what the Chief Minister has said, that there's an enormous potential, and this is the time when. And if we are not only the road through which you go to the northeast, we are also the fulcrum, the hub, which links Southeast Asia with South Asia. Obviously, thank you very much. I'll take 3 minutes. Thank you. Obviously, these will need to be translated. The agreement on transit, the debate is over, but where is the infrastructure for transit? We will need to rebuild the railways that we have neglected, the roads, the riverways, the dredging of the rivers, for which massive investments are required, which Bangladesh cannot make on its own. And therefore, we are looking to do this through public-private partnership, through regional cooperation. Mr. Chairman, I liked your idea of creating something like Southeast Asian Infrastructure Fund, ASEAN Infrastructure Fund, to create something similar for South Asia, so that the full promise of connectivity, full promise of linking South with Southeast Asia materializes in a very, very short time. So there is no longer, yesterday, I think the finance minister had talked about in Southeast Asia, where he had said that the ministers and the governments had long thought of ASEAN cooperation. It only happened when economic compulsions materialized that. Well, in South Asia, the economic compulsions have long been compelling. It was the governments that were holding back. Now, at least in our part of the sub-region, the governments have let go. So we need to make this happen. So whether you think of Northeast or whether you think of Bangladesh, and Bangladesh not only is your road to Northeast, not only the hub for linking to South Asia, it also enjoys two other substantive advantages. One, we have complete duty-free access to the vast 1.3 billion Indian market. Many Indian investors are now coming to invest and set up factories so that they can export back to the vast Indian market. Also, Bangladesh, as a less developed country, has preferential access to Europe and other developed countries. So, all I am going to say and reiterate what the Honorable Chief Minister has said, that the doors are wide open, the opportunities are great, the governments are waiting, and now it is for you to act and come and join us in our endeavors. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Professor Rizvi. In my introductory remarks, I said one of the things which was essential was political resolve and commitment. And I think you have touched on it in a very encouraging way by setting out the positive developments which have taken place between the governments of Bangladesh and other governments in the region. And I think that would be a heartening news to all of us. I now have pleasure in calling upon Dr. Dheeraj Singh, who is Secretary General of FICCI, and I should say that he was also a former Secretary to the Government of India in the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs and India's Diaspora and Migration Ministry.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I have a small presentation and we'll just go through that. First of all, I'm truly honored to be here. FICCI collaborates with ISAS and I'm glad that we could do this, and I'm really particularly happy that Honorable Chief Minister agreed, Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, Mr. Gogoi, agreed to come. I'm in fact a former civil servant from Assam, and to me it's a great honor to have our Chief Minister come here and address this wonderful gathering and talk about the tremendous potential that Northeast has with this whole connectivity. But as we talk about this, and we just heard from Bangladesh, and it's wonderful to see that regional cooperation is actually happening, and it's right there. So it's not the old story, it's an old story which is changing because politics and economics are getting together. Because there is no option. We heard in the earlier session also, it's the compulsions that will actually make it actually happen. But just stepping back a bit, I have a presentation which won't take you long, which won't, I hope, go not longer than 7 minutes. Basically talking about the theme of the conference, which is connecting global South Asians. While we talk about the India-ASEAN connectivity, we must step back and really look at the Asian diaspora. What is it, and what is the role that the diaspora or migration actually plays? Basically, if you look at globalization and migration, they are actually linked. Globalization is actually another way of saying migration. Right since Middle Ages, for example, that was the global tailwinds, the seas which carried goods, persons and ideas. And today we know that these global tailwinds are decreasing, they're slowing down. And now they say that the change in the global trade winds will actually come from Asia. And we know why that's happening. There's a churning in the world economy with China, already the world's 4th largest economy and the 3rd largest trading nation. And India is the IT powerhouse. In an historical perspective, if you look at this, China and India in the 1700s, in the 18th century, accounted for some 22% and 24% respectively of the then world's GDP. They are merely climbing back to their old positions after 2.5 centuries of decline. So if we look at globalization and see where the diaspora or the migration connect comes, basically the principal agents of this globalization are investors, financiers, workers and students. Question is no longer whether to allow migration, but rather how to manage it. And migrants of today are of course the diaspora of tomorrow. And those of yesteryears are of today, as we see in Singapore quite clearly. We are also witnessing at the world stage a whole circular migration going on. India, for example, is recording the world's highest return migrants. 10,000 people come back yearly to India. Over 60,000 of them are professionals which come back. They have now become the key drivers of development. India is a great case of how the diaspora actually connected back and led to tremendous development in the country. Globally today, there are 220 million migrants. And if we add the internal migrants to it, it means 1 billion, which means 1 in 7 persons anywhere in the world is actually a migrant. It's a very, very major force. Global remittances, you are all aware of, 400 billion, with India recording the highest at 70 billion return. This is 3 times ODA, and in many cases, in many countries, it's 5 to 10 times of foreign direct investment. It's a massive economic move that is actually impacting the world and individual companies, individual countries and of course companies. And therefore, migration and diaspora are no doubt major tools for development. So if we shift to the ASEAN stage and we look at the India-ASEAN Connect, we will question this. We'll see where is it that the diaspora can actually come in there. We already know that we are talking in terms of 100 billion by 2015. There is investment flows both sides happening, and of course with the new FTA which is coming in, which will be signed which will come into place from end of June, there's going to be a whole new connectivity and a whole new business opportunity actually between ASEAN and the whole South Asia through India. In this, obviously, physical connectivity is going to be very important, and you've just heard about it. There are land routes, sea routes, air routes, all of them are reaching higher levels from what they were before. And we see that tremendous amount of partnerships between countries and between companies is beginning to happen even in the infrastructure development in all these areas. We've seen the physical connectivity, and you just heard about how Bangladesh is right there with Northeast, Bhutan, Nepal, all getting connected. And you can see this is some of the projections that have been done of the trade routes that will emerge. The different already existing Great Asian Highway, which is to develop an alternative routes which are being looked at to enhance the economic connectivity between these areas. In terms of sectors, we know that the sectors will develop along with the road network. This is a very important point, and therefore you'll see, for example, in Myanmar, you will see food processing, oil and gas, wood, agriculture being at the helm of it, Thailand, auto machinery, Cambodia, light machinery, Laos, minerals and woods, Vietnam, agro. So there's a lot of research going on areas or sectors which will connect more in this new India-ASEAN or South Asia-ASEAN Connect as we go ahead. For this, of course, we need to do much more of detailed evaluation, and this is for research with people like ISADC, and all of us have to work in coming up with feasibility studies to see where the connectivity projects and industrial corridors can actually come. And in designing this is where our move forward will be better in terms of master plans for the early bird projects that can come up, and of course institutional and financial structures to match it will also be required. So where does the diaspora connect here? We have already seen in India the success of the Indian diaspora in coming into a lot of key sectors, particularly IT sectors, financing sectors, infrastructure areas where the diaspora has come. We now have to see the diaspora coming more into the PPP opportunities that are developing. They can come in as consultants and contractors. They can come in as O&M operators in the whole financing of the projects that are coming up in these areas, and investment in the new economic zones which are being planned both in ASEAN as well as in India, and of course the enhanced travel and tourism that will emerge because of it. India has already offered $150 million of credit for project exports to Myanmar. Similarly, there is a multimodal transit transport project which is happening. Connectivity between Myanmar and China is already far advanced. You have gas projects, you have deep sea projects, all kinds of projects are actually being designed and coming up, all of which have opportunities both for diaspora as well as large corporates to get involved. And of course, Northeast opportunity, you heard the Honorable Chief Minister, Northeast and Assam are really poised for this change. There is a tremendous paradigm shift happening where Northeast was seen as the corner of India. Today it is being seen as a gateway. There's a paradigm shift in the very thinking of it. And this is a gateway which is economic in nature, and with the political connectivity also, as you are just hearing about, it is an obvious compulsion which has to be used and will actually happening. Northeast is already well aware, sir, as you know, as you were mentioning, a large number of your diaspora is all over the world. It's all over India. Actually, Northeast is transforming because a very large number of young Northeast persons, tribal girls, boys, work all over India today and are leading to a complete transformation not only in the places where they work, but also back in Northeast. They're creating whole new demand structures, whole new supply chains that are coming into place. And finally, I would say that just like economic corridors are getting developed in India, we have 4 major economic corridors coming up in India. Delhi-Mumbai, Mumbai-Bangalore, Bangalore-Chennai, and Amritsar-Calcutta. I am suggesting, sir, that this is their future. You must create an economic corridor in the Northeast area. In Assam, if you build an economic corridor, link up the different industries with it and link it to the ASEAN. There will be a tremendous opportunity there for realizing what we are all talking about, the connect between ASEAN and South Asia. So the big question, therefore, I'll just end with, is will the diaspora deliver? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard the interesting presentation, which I think has focused on what I would call the people-to-people connectivity particularly, and how the diaspora can play a role in this connectivity. Thank you very much, Dr. Jitendra Singh. We have limited time for questions and comments from the floor. Can I ask who wishes to ask the first question or first comment? I can't see from here.
Gentleman back there.
I'm from Assam and I'm part of the diaspora here. My question is, the central government in Delhi always looked at this question of connectivity from the national security perspective. Has that changed? Because without that change in perspective, I don't think we will get very far in connecting Northeast India to Southeast Asia.
No, it has been changing. Today, connectivity, not for only security. Security will bring, by true development will also bring security also. So that today the concept has been changing. So it is more and more economic development. Connectivity for whom? For the development of people, so that you can provide employment opportunity. And more you can provide employment opportunity, the security problem will go down.
Thank you. Is there another question? Gentleman here.
My name is Michael Pinto. It's addressed to Dr. Didar Singh. You mentioned possibilities of connection through seaports, through deep sea, through land, and through air. What about inland waterways? Isn't this an extremely important thing, and don't you think the time has come now for all of us, especially in the Northeast and in the ASEAN countries, to look at this as an alternative method of communication and connectivity?
Absolutely right, sir. I believe this is working. You're absolutely right. In fact, traditionally, the connectivity was actually through the sea. It was seaports. That was the real connectivity, besides the land, which was very difficult to transgress in these areas. The real connectivity between ASEAN and India has really been through the sea. You are now adding that you must have inland waterways. Already with Bangladesh and India, there's a tremendous development already taking place. Assam's waterways have already been developed. The Inland Waterway Authority, as you're well aware, sir, is connecting up, and we now have even coal being transported. So this is an obvious way to go forward. When we talk of connectivity, we cannot talk of any one particular type of connectivity. In fact, at the end of this whole thing, the greatest connectivity is digital connectivity. For digital connectivity, you need no highways, which is already existing. So all these kinds of connectivities, when they come into play, and they will come into play because of the economic compulsions that we are talking about. With this 100 billion trade and with the new free trade agreement coming into play, it is obvious that this has to but increase. So every form of connectivity, physical or electronic, is going to help in increasing the people-to-people connectivity and the business-to-business connectivity which has to happen.
I think we can have one more question or comment from the floor. The gentleman over there on the left-hand side.
Thank you. My name is Wei. I'm a student from the LKY school. The session is about the investment opportunity for Diaspora. But my question is that are there particularly role for China? I mean, both as a government, but also Chinese entrepreneurs to get involved in this opportunity. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
I should have mentioned and I forgot. The other very, very important development is Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar economic corridor, which is exactly designed for this. We are also looking at building Chittagong, Yangon, and Kunming railway and highways. So there's a great deal happening, and also for China, it is another outlet to the sea. So that area is very, very important. So thank you for raising that.
Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I'll only add to say that as you're well aware, not only is there a China-ASEAN Connect, but now with RCEP coming into play, negotiations on RCEP have started. So there will be regional cooperation, and we will definitely see already China, for India, China has emerged as the largest trade partner. So it's obvious that this connectivity also through ASEAN and further trade and investment linking ASEAN also, and therefore Singapore also, will be an obvious way forward.
There is a road also, Stilwart Road also. It starts from Assam and it goes up to Kunming. So we are building also, only the Myanmar part. Once it is developed, one can start from Assam and it goes up to, it was built during the Second World War.
There are no other comments.
Okay.
As chairperson, it gives me great pleasure to thank His Excellency the Chief Minister for his presentation on the tremendous opportunities that await in Northeast region, and our two distinguished panelists. I think between the three of our distinguished speakers, you have highlighted not only the opportunities that are there, but also the developments in political relations which have laid the groundwork favorable for people outside to take note of the opportunities and for the diaspora also to be involved in this exercise. Thank you very much. And I believe there's a presentation. Is anybody from ISAS here?
That's right. That would be the presentation of the NER report, which I can tell you a little bit about. What we're going to do is present wonderful tokens of appreciation to our marvelous panelists, and excellent sharing from Professor Jayakumar as well. A big round of applause, please, audience. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about this NER report, because this is a report that explores the challenges and opportunities that the land route connectivity that we've been hearing about could facilitate and be a catalyst for free flow of trade, investment and tourism between ASEAN and India. So we will present that report along with the tokens of appreciation to our panelists. Gentlemen? Yes, thank you. Wonderful. And we have this NER report, which I've mentioned. We will present that along with the tokens of appreciation. We're missing our ISAS senior representatives at the moment, so apologies for that. But thank you again, gentlemen, for this wonderful discussion, and we'll get a chance to have a wonderful photo opportunity as well. Thank you once again.